If you're not familiar with what this series is, it's a 5 set session webinar series with the sole goal of helping advisors crush 401k sales in 2026. But it's forevermore for that matter. I think a lot of the content that we're going to give you is not just specifically related to this year, but will carry over from year to year. You had JD in session 1 take us off the base with go ahead and pick a fight with your plan sponsor once in a while in a creative and technical way of making sure they know that you're here not to be a yes person, but truly to deliver value. After our time together today, you get Mr. Palmini with sales meeting prep on March 3rd. You get J Mac on March 17th with highlighting record keeper strengths. And you have Devin coming in on April 7th, explaining 401k costs clearly. And to be honest, I think I'm really excited for Devin's because it's a constant conversation that we have with advisors, which is how do I understand bill versus asset base? How do I understand if this is something they can get a tax credit on, which we're going to touch a little bit on today. Understanding how a fixed account from a record keeper standpoint changes the pricing. All of these little nuances that we all need to know, but we need to find a clean and good way of explaining it to plan sponsors so they're not sitting back as confused as you might have been the first time you heard terms like asset-based fee and fixed account. So as you know, Retireholics are still going strong, first and third Thursdays at 4:30 Pacific time. Tune in with us. The whole goal of this series and of the Retireholics is to continue to bring value that you may not get elsewhere. It's important to remember 401k is all that we do. I shouldn't say that. Retirement plans are all that we do. While you advisors have to understand so many different lines of work like private wealth and insurance and P&C for some of you and investing, we are solely focused on this retirement plan space so we can get super granular in our knowledge and understanding and then cherry pick what we want you to know on the back end of this, what we believe you should know to be armed, dangerous, and effective in the case space. So we get through some of the fluff for you and then bring what we think is valuable for you to those meetings. Today, if you didn't see when you registered, today is new, and I air quote new 401k rules. We had a big ass change in 2022. So I'm still calling that Secure 2.0 change as new rules. But what I'm going to do is take what you've already heard on those topics, and I'm going to give you some really creative ways of leveraging it to go find business. And I'm really confident that the 3 nuggets towards the middle and end of this that you're going to get will not be something you've ever heard. In fact, I texted the team last night, Justin and Mark and Devin and Tristan. I'm like, I'm kind of questioning whether or not I give some of these nuggets up or hold them to the chest, because I do think that they're going to come with some great value. And I think that you're going to see quickly, it can lead to some pretty exciting new opportunities. And I'll even use the term low-hanging fruit because it's there, but nobody's picking it right now. So here's the basis for today's conversation. Many of you know the rules. Some of you may even understand the rules, but few of you know how to monetize them. And I think that that is an important delineation there, is understanding that things are changing, your client's current plans need support, and also being able to then flip over and say, well, yeah, I'm going to protect my current business, but I need to use these rule changes to win business. I need to go into other plans that fit exactly what I want and just ask some questions of whether or not their current team is bringing these concepts to them. Because I will tell you, every plan needs to understand what is changing with Roth catch-ups, what is changing with long-term part-time. Every existing plan needs to know these things. And many of them are not getting the guidance that they need. Yes, our record keeper partners are stepping up. They're doing a great job sending out communications, following up with clients, trying to help them understand what's going on. But those are email communications. Who's stepping in and helping that client understand how this will operationally work within their plan? That is a great opportunity for you to get in there and make a difference. So I'm going to give you these 3 nuggets. Some will be on startup, some will be on takeover. You're going to see as we go through here, though, I'm going to try to separate the two the best that I can. Whether you're prospecting to a brand new 401k or whether you're prospecting after something that's existing, you're going to see there's a lot of overlap. and different ways of leveraging the same rule to go after each type of plan. But we'll focus in on the startup space first. You've heard this stat. I think it was a Cerulli review that put this stat out there. And at some point, I'm going to have to mentally change it because I think the stat came out in 2025 that said 300,000 new plans by 2030. 300,000 new retirement plans in the marketplace that should have an advisor on them by 2030. That means that there is an abundance of small business owners and even mid-size and some larger that have yet to put something in place that are going to. And the going to, we're going to get to in a few minutes as to why their hands being forced into this space. What I want to do is take one step back to remind all of you that there is margin in startups. And I have this conversation often with advisors, which is when you look at ROI, you can't look at it as the sale of the 401k's return on investment. You have to go deeper. You have to look at the product value. You cannot look at the product value only. You have to look at the lifetime value of this relationship. As I mentioned a moment ago, many of you do more than just 401k's. In fact, many of you listening to this probably don't even service 401k's yet. You're looking to get into this space. So when you look to get into this space, don't look at the 50 basis points you might charge on a startup plan that has no assets. Look at the relationship you're establishing with that high net earner from a business owner perspective. Maybe if they've got 2 sales guys or gals that are making good money, that could be strong relationships. Maybe you for years have specialized in doing life insurance. And now you've got a 30-person startup 401k plan where you're going to get one-on-one guidance. You're fishing in a barrel now to see who needs this type of support from you. And I use the term need because I'm a believer in life insurance. And I think it is okay for you to get in there and have this discussion about their full financial picture. Help them down the path of deferring and operating and servicing that 401k, but also know that you bring value that many of these participants aren't going to get anywhere else. They don't have a private wealth advisor. These participants aren't rolling around with $1 million of investable assets. And so you will be their connector. And if that doesn't get your heart pumping and excited of like, man, I can make an impact on some of these folks' lives with very, very little effort and a whole lot of reward for these people and some financial benefit for you, then maybe you should tune out of this thing because that should get that heart pumping. So here's my analogy. Everybody knows I love analogies. If you're in this looking at a lifetime value, don't for a second think that Costco created that hot dog value meal for $1.50 and thought we're going to make a cent off this. That's cost for them. But what are they doing? They're saying, let me get you in this store. And once I got you in, once you got that dog in you and you want your hot dog and your soda, you're going to walk around the store and you're going to end up spending money in here. You're going to end up renewing a membership. You're going to end up buying something that you didn't know you needed or something that you did need. You're going to start buying in bulk. You're going to come back more often. That is the loss leader that gets you in the door. A startup 401k can be the loss leader that gets you in the door. So don't be afraid to pursue these small market 401ks. And I'm going to get into it in just a second here about these tax credits and how you can actually get paid too. I'm not telling you to do this pro bono. I'm telling you don't be fearful of the startup space. So if you're looking to go after new 401k plans, new changes to tax credits, some new, some old, I want you to take a step back for a second and think about this conceptually. And I promise, Nerdy Chad, this will be the only numbers, these next 2 slides, numbers that I really roll through with you. And then after that, I'll leave the nerd stuff to the side and give you more of the sales side of this. But what you're seeing on the screen here is there are 2 types of tax credits that every new 401k plan has an opportunity to take advantage of. There are some exemptions. Yes. I'm sure some of you out there are like, well, there's some people that can't. If they have an existing simple in place or they've had a plan in the last 3 years. Yeah, there's some things like that. We'll touch on it a little bit. But let's look at the cost credit first. And I distinguish between those 2 clearly. One is for helping a plan set up and drive down the headwind of the cost of operating the plan. The second, which I'm super excited for, is the contribution credit. So I'm going to use an example through these next 2 slides. You have a small business. It is 12 employees. Of those 12, we have 2 owners. It's called a husband and wife. And we have 10 employees. The plan operating expenses in that first year are $4,000. Now, the tax credit here says you can cover up to 100% of your company expenses, capped at $5,000. But part of that calculation depends on how many non-highly compensated employees you're giving access to this plan. So in this case, we get $250 per employee. That's $2,500. We could have gotten $4,000 if we had more employees, but we don't. We have an available tax credit of $3,000 because we're going to leverage an automatic enrollment $500 additional credit right on top of that. So of our $4,000 of expenses, we got $3,000 in tax credit right back to our pockets from the IRS. Keep in mind, your client has to be profitable. You can't get money back from the IRS if you don't owe them something. So you got $3,000 back from the IRS. That extra $1,000 that we're showing there, that is a tax deductible expense still. So if they're in a 40% tax bracket, they're saving $400 on that expense. So their tax savings on this plan in year one is $3,400 for a $4,000 billed expense. Let me give you a breakdown of that. 10-person plan for a TPA maybe costs about $2,500 to get a good, competent TPA to step in there, help with the doc design, set up something super effective, roll this plan out, all the work that a good administrator does. The other $1,500 could be your first year expense. If you can go fee-based, you can tell your client, I'm a $1,500 plus 50 basis points in year one. That's a very reasonable price setup for you. You can step in and say, we are going to bill you each of the first 4 quarters, $1,500 in total in year one. That covers your efforts in initial enrollment meeting, reviewing record keepers, getting this plan up and running. But then after that, you step back and you're flat 50 as that plan continues to grow year after year after year. So when I showed you an expense of $4,000, no, I'm looking at that and saying, you advisors need to get paid for the work you're doing up front. If you can't go fee-based, the conversation I have is this is a marathon for you. And what you're looking to do then is establish this relationship, and the plan may be zero now, and you're doing pro bono work today. But in years 2, 3, 4, 5, as that plan becomes 250, 500, $1 million, now your 50 basis points is going to equate to some meaningful compensation. You can see that the tax credit goes to cover all of the expenses in the next couple of years. We lost our upfront year expense. So let's just say it's $3,000 a year now in billed cost to that business. They're going to be able to get a tax credit for all $3,000 for years 2 and 3. After year 3, that tax credit is gone. And now everything is just a deduction. This important factor here, when you're talking to a small business owner that's looking to implement a plan, you need to make sure that they know cost should not really be part of the decision-making factors. Yes, we need to address them. We need to understand them. We need to look at them. But let's leverage those tax credits. Let's make sure that you're not going to say, no, I don't want to open a plan because I have to pay $4,000 in year one. Because you're not paying $4,000 in year one if you're a profitable company. You're paying $600 in year one. So make sure that you're having that conversation with these small business owners. Let's take it a step further because this one's far more exciting for me. For the first time in my 17 years of doing this, the IRS is stepping in and saying, we will pay you, the business owner, if you're willing to give money to your employees. If you're willing to match for them, we'll give you up to $1,000 per employee for the first 2 years. And then it will phase out after that over the remaining 3 years. You get 5 years of credit. It looks like a lot on the screen. I'm going to explain it pretty quickly and easily. Step 1, you look at the total number of employees that you have making under 100K. In this example, continued from last slide, you got 10 employees. They're all making under 100K. You are matching, I'll put in there $15,000. You're matching for them $15,000. If they're all getting at least $1,000 there, you're going to get $1,000 per employee back in a tax credit from the IRS. So step 3 shows of that $15K, $10,000 is going to be covered in this tax credit. Don't forget the remaining $5,000 is a deduction. So you're going to get another $2,000 here in tax savings. You're saving $12,000 and you are rewarding the employees with $15K. That and is going to come big in these sentences that I have written at the bottom here. So let's take that full picture. You're willing to give a match to these employees, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner. This is exciting for you. This is exciting for them. Let's make sure we leverage this when we're talking to your employees about their full compensation package. Let's get them excited. about the fact that you're putting skin in the game with them. You're willing to give them free money if they will save for their own future. And you're doing so in a very tax advantageous way. So we've got two owners, right? Each of them under age 50. Let's say they're both maximizing their personal deferrals and they're both getting the company match. So between the two of them, they've got $59,000 that otherwise would be subject to taxes, and they're pushing this into their own 401k plan. In a 40% tax bracket, that will save the owners $23,000. Don't forget, they also saved 12 grand by giving the employees money. So now the business and the owner's tax savings is $35,000. And you also got to reward the employees with $15K. I'm highlighting that term "and" because for so many years I've said, but you have to give the employees $15K. But I didn't like the term "but" as I wrote this. And I went, why have I done "but" my whole life in terms of saying, but you have to give them they should be excited about giving them $15K. You're giving them $15,000 that you otherwise would have given the IRS. So don't use "but," use "and." And this got me motivated to look at these and say, how can we reframe this conversation a little bit better when we're prospecting after new plans? Go after these tax credits. I know others are doing this. And man, I've seen some shitty blasts from some of the tech-based companies out there. I got one recently that was an owner-only plan. Owner only, no employees. And it was an email written by the consultant saying that they were going to get $5,000 in cost credit. And I tell the owner, they're wrong. You don't get a cost credit because you don't have any employees. So we can't go down that path together. This conversation is out there. Understand it, like we mentioned earlier, and then figure out how to leverage it for yourself. So here's the sad reality of this. I'm a avid part of Plan Consultant magazine. I love reading the articles. I learn from them. And Megan Crawford, who's a TPA out of Illinois, I believe, wrote an article in there looking at the tax credits themselves and trying to figure out if businesses were actually claiming them. Shit, you see the stat. That is terrifying. 6% of eligible small employers who could have claimed the retirement plan's startup credit, only 6% of them did. Think about that. That means 94% of startups that could have gotten a credit, their CPAs didn't file for it. They didn't ask the IRS to get that money back. So we're showing it, but the CPA's got to file for it. So here's my nugget for you. This is something I hadn't actually thought about until recently. If you go run a 5500 search and you create criteria that says, I only want first-year filers, and I know that you want some decent-sized plans, so put some metrics in there. Say what participant count you want. Maybe you want 10 to 50 participants. And maybe you're even going to get creative and say you want to do an average account balance threshold so that you can get like plans that are flowing real well. So you might do a $30,000 or a $50,000 average account balance threshold. Run that 5500 search for your geographical location. Come back with 30, 50, depending on where you live, 150 plans if you're in a popular city that filed their first 5500. And then call them. Call them and ask the question. Get their email address and ask the question. Hey, do you know that you were eligible for tax credit for running this plan? Did your CPA request it? Did your CPA file your taxes to get that credit for you? That is a great way in the door. I have not seen anybody else talk about this, and I have not seen anybody else do it. If you need help running those 5500 searches, just about every record keeper can do it for you. We can do it for you. There's about any 401k focused group can run those searches. Waves, which you heard JD talk about, has a great research tool for 5500 mining. You can go pull an Excel list, get through there and figure out who you have it in with and who you might want to call. Now let's understand on these new plans I mentioned earlier, their hands are being forced. There are now 20 states that have mandates in place. The picture on the left is from Cap Group. It's a wonderful site. You can go just type in Capital Group state mandates. You can click on any state and it will show you exactly what their mandate is, who it applies to, what type of IRA it is it Roth, is it not, is there auto-enroll, all these different things. So if you cherry pick your state, you can go learn a lot from that site. But there are 20 states currently that have it. The only state that has no effort, as you can see on that screen, is South Dakota. Every other state has something either brewing or in place currently. Even in my current home state, or my forever home state now, Missouri, has something going in place. Legislative efforts underway. Now, when we looked and tried to cross-reference which businesses should have a plan versus which businesses filed a 5500, that there showed a ton of non-compliance in this. Now, keep in mind, 5500 means they offered a 401k plan. Doesn't mean they offered the state plan. It doesn't mean they offered the state mandate plan. Doesn't mean they offered a simple IRA. There are holes in that example there. But what we have found throughout all of the states is that very few businesses have taken this the way they should and gone out and implemented what they needed to. So reach out, call, talk, ask these small businesses. Auto-enrollment is another $500 credit. Auto-escalation, QACA, I'm going to move quickly now. All three of these are ways that new plans have to be designed. Yes, there are exemptions. If you were a plan prior to 2022, late 2022, fewer than 10 employees, the business itself is less than 3 years old, then you don't have to implement automatic enrollment or auto-escalation. But where I say use this as a differentiator for yourself is when you're talking to that startup plan and you got in there with tax credits or state mandates, and now you're talking about creating a new benefit for them. Their biggest fear usually is not cost. I'm telling you from years and years of doing this, it's not cost. Their biggest fear is, how is this going to mess up my business operations? What am I going to have to do as an owner or an HR person that probably wears a couple different hats for the small business when it comes to running this 401k? So yes, these things exist, but create efficiencies for them. Go ahead and put automatic enrollment in at a 10% savings rate. That takes care of the auto escalation. We don't need auto escalation anymore. Most of these businesses are going to be met by you when you roll this plan out, or good tech through the record keeper when they become eligible. So the auto enroll feature doesn't have a huge effect on this micro space. Great effect on larger plans, but little effect on the micro space. So go in and create some efficiencies for them. Auto enroll at 10%, skip auto escalation. We are seldom designing plans with a safe harbor match anymore, because if we have auto enrollment, you're going to have a 90% participation rate anyways. So why give a 4 or a 3.5% match when you could just give 3% to everybody and then leverage those dollars towards the profit sharing allocation or even a cash balance, which I'll touch on in a little bit. So very few plans are going safe harbor match vesting in that micro, or safe harbor match in that micro space. They are leveraging the 2-year vesting schedule and moving into these QACA type designs. If those terms don't mean a whole lot for you, reach out. We can chat through them, make sure you feel comfortable. Another nugget here, simple to 401k mid-year conversions. Many of you have steered away from the startup space because you want assets. I get it. If you can't go fee-based, then you're only getting paid when assets are in the plan. This is a great way to help a client get what they need and also jumpstart a plan with some significant assets. You now can take a simple, you can convert it to a safe harbor 401k during that current calendar year. Now, it has been difficult in all the years I've done this to figure out which businesses do offer a simple. Let me rephrase that. It's easy to figure out which businesses offer a 401k plan because we can search 5500s for it. But it is not easy to figure out which businesses are out there that are not offering a 401k plan. So Cap Group and Bid Money has given us access to go in and do a 5500 search. Well, I should say cross-reference 5500 search with tax filings. You can pick your geographical location. You can set the number of employees. You can set the annual payroll size, because they're looking at what payroll information has been submitted to the IRS. And you can run a review for which companies in your footprint do not have a 401k plan. Now you go in and you take what I just taught you in those last 3 slides and you start marketing. So we now have a way, other than it being your church friend or your golf buddy or where your kids go to school together and you know the parents, rather than just having it be relationship based, you can start prospecting after companies that we know don't have a 401k. And hopefully many of those will have a simple, and you can be armed and dangerous and ready to convert that simple over to a 401k moving forward. That plan now starts with $1.5 million in simple assets if you help those employees roll those dollars in. So it is a beautiful thing that you can leverage. I'm going to toot my own horn here real quick. Rothification has been going on. I wrote the cover story for Plan Consultant in the summer edition last year on this whole concept of Rothification in retirement plans. For years, it very rarely came up. Now it's constantly coming up. And it's constantly coming up in a few different ways. The first is, if you're not comfortable with the Roth catch-up rules, you need to be. It's going to affect your current clients. It's going to affect your future startup opportunities. But if you have a business that has an employee who's 50 or older, they made $150K with that business and FICA wages in the prior year, then their catch-up contributions have to be put into the plan as a Roth contribution. Almost every institution has communicated this to the existing plans because this is live. It's now in 2026. But it is a great opportunity for you to step in there if you're prospecting and say, has your advisor reached out to talk to your highly comps about this? Because this is going to directly affect them. That's something you can get in there and help with. They got 5 highly compensated employees. They got 50. It's a law firm. Get in there and spend some time with those 50 highly comped. Explain to them how this catch-up provision is going to work, what it entails, and what we can do about it. I put in there from a Rothification standpoint, mega backdoor Roth. You guys have heard me on Retireaholics constantly say it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's subject to certain tests. It won't work. You can't put it in the micro space that we all operate in. One place I've never really addressed it with publicly is in owner-only plans. We can absolutely put after-tax contributions into owner-only plans. There's no testing. And now that owner, if they're keeping their wage low, can put in some after-tax dollars. They can in-plan convert it in a Roth rollover to Roth immediately. So they carry no tax burden on the growth. Since there was no growth, it's converted immediately. And now you can get a shit ton of money in the Roth bucket. You see right below there, employer Roth. We're not there yet. It's live. There are not many institutions that can handle it from a record-keeping standpoint, but we're getting close. But that will be here. The PLESA, the Pension Linked Emergency Savings Account. I think I saw Nevin in the chat bar. We're not seeing much of a take rate on that. I think Nevin was super excited. I think we all were super excited. It's not popping up much popularity, and that could just be because there's so much headwind. There's so many different things coming right now that the PLESAs have not taken full effect. But it is something that you should know about. I have an advisor in NorCal that simple concept and college reimbursement, people paying down their college tuition and getting a match in the plan, that has led them to numerous opportunities. They're calling tech companies that have young employees and they're asking those 2 questions, and they're getting opportunities in these larger plans that they otherwise weren't in the past. So here's my last nugget for you, and I'm moving quick because I know I'm at time. There is a way to lock on to an opportunity that we have never been able to lock on before. And I knew this existed, but I didn't leverage it the way I should have until an advisor on the East Coast reached out and he said, hey, I've got this producing TPA in the area. This producing TPA that is selling plans as the TPA and doing a pretty good job on the compliance administration, but they're never relooking at the investments. They're not spending any time in there helping employees educate and engage. And so I want to go after those plans. You know how I can go after those plans? 5 years ago, I'd say, you got to just figure out where they are. Not anymore, folks. If you haven't looked at 5500s from last year, so the 2024 filing, then you need to. These short forms even, part 8 down here, you're going to see a little code. That code is for the opinion letter that is registered by the company that is filing that 5500. So on the bottom there, you see Q704162A. That is one of ADP's many codes. Now you need to have the key to this, which we have. If you need some help with that, reach out if you don't have access to it. But the key shows every single code for every filer, including us. So if you see a merger and acquisition, you see a TPA was just bought by another TPA, and you're like, man, I'd really like to go in and talk to those clients about that. Make sure that they're going to be happy with the new group that they're now going to be forced to work with. Or record keeper acquisition. I need to go talk to those clients and see if they're happy about moving from one provider to the next without having a say in it because that business was acquired. Now you have an opportunity to go run all those plans, pull a list of your geographical area, and go after them. This is exciting to me. This is sexy to me. You can cherry pick the plan in which you want to go after. In the micro space, that hasn't existed. In the audited space, larger, yeah, you can figure out who the record keeper is, who the provider is. You can cherry pick some of those. Now we have easy access. So reach out to us if you don't have that key or don't know how to look and find this on the 5500. It's pretty easy and pretty simple to do. So here's the last piece. I've given you some nuggets. I've given you some thoughts. Hopefully you can digest this, make sense of it, read up, reach out to us, get comfortable with it so that you are at least dangerous. And then start going after these things. Start going after start going after startups. Figure out if you can go fee-based. Figure out how you're going to charge. Build some acumen around this and start to spend some time in this micro retirement plan space because you can make an impact. And I can tell you confidently that these employees and these small businesses need you folks. They need you, the advisor. You've heard us say this before. Plan design consultants have been doing this for 50 plus years. We have an advisor that we pay on our retirement. And we do that for a reason because we know the value that you bring. So you need to have that conviction and go out there and try to find these plans as well. So yes, attack. You like my quote from ChatGPT. I asked it to give me something about which advisors will succeed. Obviously, my algorithm is tiered a little bit because they know I do 401k business. Next webinar I mentioned before, March 3rd, 10 a.m. You can sign up for the full series so you get blasted with all of these. Next Retireaholics. I shouldn't say Next Retireaholics because if you didn't watch Jason Wank from Altruist last week, shit, go back. Go back and watch that. He was a beast. He was a lot of fun. March 5th, though, we do have Steve Wilkinson on. We've chatted with Steve a little bit in the past about some of his calling and business building techniques. It'd be fun to have him on and dive in a little bit deeper. And then last, don't forget, JD said it in the first one. Hopefully you're seeing it a bit here. We are a team of 6 solely dedicated for helping our advisor partners find, win, and retain case-based business. We are not a producing TPA. We don't do any advisor work. We don't do any record keeping work. All of our business comes from you, the advisor community, or strategic partners like record keepers, payroll providers, CPAs. We nurture those relationships and we work on every plan with an advisor in the mix. So leverage us. This is all that we do, and we're excited to spend some time with you. So 32 minutes, 34 minutes, sorry. Brandon maybe start 2 minutes late. 34 minutes. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure. Good night.